Facebook.
If I can get these other ones added here.
So we're just about ready to go. I'll refresh, make sure we're live on Facebook. Yes, we are. Change that to public because some reason it wants to start it. Then one last share and we'll be ready to go. Hey, everyone that's coming on, make sure you just say hi. Okay. All right. So we're up in about the 25 different places we normally are, Rob. So
okay,
I'm about ready to hit record here. Okay.
Okay, I'm sending you those right now.
All right. You send them an email or how you sending them?
Yeah,
Okay.
Gmail.
Shot of Red Bull here and we're ready to go.
2 separate emails.
See.
So they're in kind of sequential order.
All right. I'll grab them here in a second. Everybody, welcome to the New Media Show. Of course, I'm Todd Cochran, joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Rob, how you doing?
Doing terrific, Todd. It's great to be back doing the show in these unusual times,
yes,
I should say.
Yes, it is. And, I'm fully awaiting the Michigan governor to make us all start working from home. But here in my...
That's a big change for you, isn't it, Todd?
Well, my Michigan studio is 11 miles from my house. So, I could, if they, no one's here. It's just me.
Right.
So I'm technically already, sequestered or quarantined or whatever we want to call this.
Exactly.
So I wonder if they'll let me, I wonder if the cops will come knock on the door if we're supposed to be in our houses when they lock us down. I don't know.
I suppose that's a good question.
I'll think I'll risk it because, I'm just here by myself. So it really is self-quarantine, but yes, strange times that we live in, and they haven't locked Washington State down. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I'm surprised too, actually. But, I'm definitely sequestered, not going anywhere myself. So I don't know how long we're going to be like this, Todd. It's hard to say,
Well, one thing's for sure. It definitely gives us a lot of captured audience right now.
Well, yeah.
We did the team and I did a live event on Thursday for our Podcast Insider event. And we never do that show live. We just usually record it and then put it up as a blog post. And, it is what it is, right? And so Mike's up in Traverse City and I said, why don't we just try live and see what happens? And we did it in the Blueberry channel and we had like 30 people show up. And I'm like, well, I think we're on to something here, because, let's be frank. If some people are working from home. Some people sadly are not working at all.
Right.
That's the true tragedy on this thing is I can still work and get paid. And there are thousands and maybe at this point, millions of people that are, being affected job wise. So, I'm just like, what's going to happen here, and we'll see what end with, I don't know how long this is going to go on. I'm not even going to try to guess. Yeah, I would expect probably 6 to 8 weeks, maybe. I don't know.
Right. It's a possibility. I mean, we just don't know. There's so many unknowns about what's going on here and how long-term, how this could affect the podcasting space too. It's really unknown right now. I know that the people are signing up for creating podcasts as much as they were before all this. So it hasn't really impacted the podcasting space too much. And I haven't heard much yet around advertising in this medium yet either, whether or not there's been a big hit or the beginnings of a change or not on that as well. So I don't know.
I looked at sales numbers and we were tracking just about what we thought we would be.
Right.
Cancellations we had a few podcasters reach out for some relief and working with them. But I guess we'll just see what happens here. We're going to be pretty flexible. We want people to keep on podcasting. And, we've had some people that come to us with COVID-19 ideas and we're like, here's a free account. Go, knock yourself out. Kind of vetted them a little bit, make sure they're from the right type of agency or group and people trying to get the word out on what is going on in space. And
Mm-hmm.
And, you got to kind of be careful too, because if I'm going to comp an account to someone, I don't want them to be someone that's putting out bogus information. So, I've had several of those conversations with people to make sure, what they're sourcing their data from and their backgrounds and all that. So, that's before we, cut them loose. But I guess we'll see. And your cohort, Rob, shared with some information. I don't know if I'm supposed to share it or not on download numbers. And I was going to take a look and see where we were at for this month compared to maybe last month or a year ago at the same time, and to see if the download listening number. I look back to 2008 when we went through the housing crisis, and of course this is really short-term wise much more worse than the housing crisis.
Right.
And when we took a big hit in the stock market, our business went up.
Right.
Advertising went up. And I can't imagine advertising going down at this point. I really can't, because if you think about everyone's on their computers or on TV. I just don't see it now. A certain type of advertising, maybe. I don't know. But hey, want to say hello to everyone that's in chat. Luke, Mike, Stephanie, Todd. Thanks for saying hello. I think we've got the audio fixed this week too. It was my fault, Rob. There was a setting on that machine last week. That's why you were really bad.
A little bit of a struggle.
Oh,
yes.
It was after I listened to it later. Hey, bravo for the live audience that stayed last week. I would have left. I would have bailed.
Probably some did.
I think some did. Oh my God! As I went back and listened, like this.
Yeah, totally. It was like I was clipping or something like that. It was I thought for a minute it was packet loss.
No.
That's typically what
it was
here.
And all I had to do was flip around and switch the settings on the MacBook. I didn't have the audio. I had it set on Skype just fine, but not the master audio. And as soon as I changed that, because it's using a special adapter now, because Mac doesn't allow you to have a mic in. It only has a line out, stupidity. And so I have to use a little adapter. So it's on me. So if you all want to yell, but I was able to salvage the main recording, because I was recording with audio backup as well, and it didn't sound too bad. But yeah, we're back where we're supposed to be.
So last week was really a solo show for you, Todd.
Oh, it was horrible. And I really kind of cringed when I loaded the video up and I started playing. I was like, they didn't tell us it was that bad.
No, we're trying to be nice. I guess.
Oh, they're nice. Yeah, they're being angels. I'd have been screaming, "Hey, you guys are supposed to have your act together."
Right. Well, even us has problems. It happens. Doing stuff live is not always easy and doesn't always work well. It's one of the reasons that I took my radio show back in the days out of the broadcast radio station, because I had a lot of problems in there. So that's when I started pre-producing everything. Yeah.
So anyway, there has been a lot, and I'm trying to load these images, Rob, on the computer here that you sent me from from Tom's presentation, because they did the presentation on Thursday for Tom Webster and his group, and the Infinite Dial, and I'll get these saved and we'll talk about them here at length in a few minutes and give our undivided attention to it.
Yes. Well, you have to wonder how looking forward, how reflective these numbers really are of. I guess they're reflective of the past, but now we're in kind of a new era. It's hard to really predict what the impact of what's happening in the world right now is going to have on these numbers going forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And let's see here. I hope I'm going to just show these. We're not going to be able to talk to them in order because I'm downloading.
Which is fine. Yeah. They're all standalone. Pretty much.
But I guess it's just. And what's been more interesting too is my support team. I shouldn't say this because I'm going to jinx them. Is the support's been actually a little slower. So we kind of thought that with everything going on, that we would have a lot more support calls come in. And it really it hasn't been like super heavy. But the thing that I think I find the most amazing is I've been keeping all my appointments. We've been doing Zoom meetings and so forth. And I get astonished, when I'm on the call, people are like, "You're here." And I'm like, "Well, yeah." We got an appointment. He says, I've been like 80% of the appointments that they've been making have been
canceled.
Well, people not even showing up, not even getting the courtesy of canceling. Not even the courtesy of canceling an appointment. I'm like, I don't know. It's I guess we're just so used to working remote.
Right. And in doing this kind of stuff, I do Zoom and conference calls all the time.
Yeah.
I did get an email from freeconferencecall.com telling me that they were seeing unprecedented usage levels on their platform, and they were having to upgrade their infrastructure to keep up with the amount of people doing conference calls, which I guess makes sense. You think about all these millions of people working from home. They still want to network and communicate with their colleagues. I've been using freeconferencecall.com for years, and it works terrific.
Yeah.
So I just think that StreamYard and Squadcast and Zoom and all of these video conferencing platforms of sorts are just going to see unprecedented usage going forward as more people work from home. And this is kind of a new era, Todd, and you probably would agree with this, for online communications. And I've even seen CNN and these big TV networks starting to look more like podcasters.
And I had to laugh because, I'm doing a little of this, right? And so they're on Skype conversations, and they start hearing the audio drop out, and I'm like,
welcome to our world.
they haven't learned that there's if you're going to do a Skype interview, you have a wired connection. Don't be on Wi-Fi. All these little things we already know.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, ha 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 ha, to the major media people, And I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the word out and keep the programming going, but
and keep separated too. They're all doing it from their homes, just like what we do, right? So they're becoming more like us now. Big media is becoming more like what we've been doing for like 11 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, though, I have not been watching mainstream media for a long time. I took a break because I felt myself becoming apprehensive. I was getting, listen to this news, and it would so I stopped. I stopped watching it because it wasn't good for my mental health. So for like 2 days, I had flipping between all these talking heads, and like yesterday afternoon, I'm like, you got to shut this off.
Right.
Check out for an hour or two a day, but the rest of the time, because I let it run like 8 hours straight, I'm working, I'm looking at the TV, the new the new breaking news, or whatever it was, and it just like
there's a lot of news that talked about the same over and
over, and it's and they're looking for fill. There's other stuff going on in the world a little bit,
but that's not getting covered.
No, not at all. So let's talk. I guess we break into the Infinite Dial. For those of you that didn't watch the Infinite Dial, we had a lot of fun with Tom, and he had it as comical as he could, throwing his humor in, and he made some good lines. So let's see if I can. I'm going to have to change my viewer here. So let me.
And didn't he send an email out? I think for those that registered. A link to the full deck.
Yeah, he did.
As well as the webinar that he put on too. So if you missed it, I believe you can go to I think it's edisonresearch.com, I think is the address, Todd. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you can probably find it in the podcast studies area.
All right. So let's see. Am I showing anything I shouldn't show? No. So pick the desktop up. Can I do this? This is going to suck. I got 2 monitors. Hang on. Let me figure out how to do this, because I'm just bringing the images up.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Maybe I can do that. Ah, ding. All right. So the first slide is talking about in the study. And again, those of you who don't know this, the Infinite Dial is a yearly study put out by Edison Research. It's sponsored by Triton Digital. And this is the 10th year or 9th year? They've been doing this a long time.
I think the first year, was 2005 or 6, one of the two. I can't remember.
Yeah. So anyway, the first slide that we've got up here is talking about the age of monthly podcast listeners. And, really the one that really blows me away the most, and the tsunami of change over time has been this age group factor.
Yeah. Totally amazing how younger people have really got connected with this medium. I think that's the biggest change.
So 37%, 12 to 34, 35 to 54 is 40%. And here's the thing I keep telling people, 55 plus, 23%. Why? Why is 55 plus here? Because when podcasting started 15 years ago, those folks were 40 years old. They haven't stopped listening.
Right.
So they're moved into this 23% category.
Yeah.
And, but monthly podcast consumers, where they've said they've consumed at least a single podcast,
right,
is 12 to 34, 48%, 55 and above 20, 35 to 54, 32. So I think this is done well. The space is strong for podcast listeners. Let's see if I can do this without screwing.
Well, for many, many years, Todd, the age 35 to 54 was the largest percentage of podcast consumers.
Right.
Now it's shifted over to the 12 to 34 age group, which means that a lot of younger people are connecting with the medium now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm having to make some...
Which is really, really good news for the advertising industry.
Mm-hmm. Next one up is talking about diversity in the space. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at this, Caucasian, 58, African-American, 13, Hispanic, 18, Asian, 4%, and other is 7. When you look at it from the basis of a monthly podcast consumer, white 63, African-American 11, Hispanic 11, Asian 5, other 9%.
Yeah, it's interesting how certain ethnicities over-index here and which ones under-index. Mm-hmm. I think is the big difference there. Whites are over-indexing on podcast consumption, which I guess probably isn't a big surprise. Asians are over-indexing, other is over-indexing, but the Hispanic community is under-indexing, which means that there's still a huge growth opportunity on the Hispanic side.
So what does that mean then, Rob? You mean it's under-indexing? Oh, we're talking about U.S. It's a breakup
of people, that are white consuming podcasts
I see.
are in the general percentage of the general population. So it's over-indexing.
I got you.
Compared to all the other ethnic groups.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, so let's break this one into. Let's go into this next slide then, and I'm juggling here. Monthly podcast listening. If you look at 2017, it was 27% for men and now 39% in 2020 as compared to women in 2017, 21% to 36%. But I think if you look at this jump, 29 to 36, it goes along with everything you and I have been saying here for the past year is the number of women not only entering podcasting space as creators, but those that are listening, right. It's skyrocketing. And this to me is very exciting.
Well, it's becoming balanced. There's actually more women in the U.S. than there are men. So there's still more to grow on this side to be balanced with the percentage of the U.S. population. But yeah, I mean, was it a 7% growth on women listening to podcasts? Is a huge growth number because it's only 3% growth for men. So that just tells you it's definitely growing much faster on the listening side for women.
Yeah. All right. So let's see if I can switch slides here. Again, I'm not on my normal way to do this. There we go. So we're talking now about monthly podcast listening.
Right.
And this is basically percentage.
Of all age demos too. This is across the U.S. population.
Yeah. So starting in 2008, where it was 9%, today up to 37%. So in other words, they have percentage listened to a podcast in the last month. This is what this chart is last month, 104 million people have listened, 32 to 37. And again, a nice 5% jump as compared to the year before. It was 6. And then everything else has been 2s, 3s, 4s, so everyone's talking about podcasting. Everybody, I haven't run into I ran into somebody the other day, didn't know what a podcast was. And actually when I had them show me their phone and I know what you're talking about. So that was, they just listened to a program.
Well, from 2018 to 2019 was a 6% growth.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we saw from 2019 to 2020 was a 5% growth. So it actually didn't grow quite as fast as 2018 to 2019, but pretty darn close,
Yep. And I think the slide that probably everyone was excited to see was the one that talks about, this overall, how many percentage of people that have ever listened to a podcast, and we're up to 55% or 155 million people. I think the U.S. population is 330, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is, I think what happens now is I would fully expect this number to jump much higher in the coming year.
Yeah, I would say looking forward, I would say agree because, again, 2018 to 2019, what showed a 7% growth, and from 19 to 20 was a 4% growth. So, it's growing a little slower, but I would tend to expect that. I think going forward, it could grow a little slower, Todd. Who knows? I mean, but yet the changes in what's happening with people staying home, I don't know. There was conflicting things that I read online, Tom Webster and others that were saying that maybe we shouldn't be overly optimistic about people's attention to this medium looking forward because of other factors, right? Of distraction, other things. It's hard for people to concentrate when they're under threat, and I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of unknown factors. I think as you look back to the historical things, I think Tom was mentioning that these kind of things create a lot of uncertainty in the media market too, and people change their consumption patterns. That they're not riding on trains or buses. They're not in their cars as much, which is where a lot of the listening happens. So maybe they get distracted more into video. There's a lot of unknown factors here that we just don't know.
Well, if you think about it though, and again, you and I are not average use case.
No.
But for me, at this point, I'm pretty busy. I'm used to traveling a lot. We're doing events. I'm going down to Columbus. I'm spending time with, I'm busy. So for me, it's like, slow right back up, pull the reins in. And I'm sure that's the same way for a lot of people. And for me, it's like 2 nights ago, I'm like, man, I got to finish that book. So I broke out the iPad and spent 2-3 hours reading. Good distraction.
Right.
I'm listening to a lot of podcasts during the day, and in the early evening to the favorite shows and trying to get their mix on things and what's going on and look, because to be honest with you, the folks at Netflix and Amazon, and they need to add a whole bunch of movies because we're all going to, I think HBO, is going to have their series out now. What's the one that's, wonder what's, oh my God, trying to think here where they have the robots. Westworld.
Westworld.
Yeah, Westworld is starting up. So, that's going to give us something to look forward to. I think they just need to release the whole series and be done with it instead of feeding us one a week. But I think, though, people will adapt here. And people are kind of like kids at home. They're, and dealing with that all day. And one thing that's going to happen, there's going to be a lot of babies, a lot of divorces. and there's going to be ways to They're going to be lots of sales of Velcro because parents are going to want to be Velcroing their kids to the wall to keep them. So
that's an interesting visual, Todd. I have to think about that one a little bit.
I use that.
I use Velcro to the wall.
I use that. Yeah. My point was when I was in the military, when I was instructing students. Well, you got a train going by, Rob.
Yeah.
I didn't know you're near a train track. So this is we can those of us trying to deduce where Rob has his hideout at. We can know he's near a train track. So I used to say when I was instructing, because I could never be a K-12 teacher, never. But when I was teaching military guys, if they were falling asleep, I would just throw an eraser at them. You can't do that with K-12. You end up in jail. But I always said if I ever had to teach kindergarten or something, I would have to have places to put kids on the wall, Velcro them up there. So, those of you teachers that are spending time off right now, God bless you, because I could never be a teacher. I really not teaching K-12s. And if I teach high schoolers, then there would probably be, no, it wouldn't work.
I could just imagine the parents walking in and all the kids in your classroom are all Velcro to the
wall. They'd call the cops on me. I'd be cuffed and stuff. But I think, though, there's going to be some parents that are not used to being with their kids all day.
Well, yeah.
Maybe maybe some moms are the stay-at-home moms, and so the dads are home, or maybe mom's working and maybe dad's home, and it's mom's the nurse, and who knows? It could be the whole. So, I could see
bandwidth pipes are getting saturated with Xbox games and PlayStation games going on all day, right? And I'm sure there's lots of battles over bandwidth that are going to happen in the home.
I'm already seeing it here at work. I was having a meeting the other day, and I was checking bandwidth speeds throughout the day. It was dropping. And but hopefully they start using the parks, because they say you can go outside. But anyway, back to this study. We're having fun today. Got to have a little fun, ladies and gentlemen. Have to have a little fun. All right, so let's talk about this podcast. Oh, I'm going to destroy this because, I can never speak English. Familiarity. Oh, my God.
Familiarity.
Percentage of people familiar with podcasts in the United States, age 12 plus, and up to 75%, 212 million. This is, again, good.
Yeah. I guess how much higher can it get? That's the next question. If you look at smartphone adoption, right, it peaked at like 85%. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, awareness and familiarity can probably get up close to 100. I would think.
I would think so. So let's say we get to 85%, where we have equal parity with people having cell phones and people that know about podcasting.
Yeah.
But so what does that leave? 15% of what is that age group that doesn't have a cell phone? Then is that 85 plus or 90 plus that don't want to? What is that? 15% of the population doesn't have a smartphone. That's the key. Is what age group doesn't have a? Now we've got folks that
12. I mean, this is research that's based on 12 and up, right?
12 and up. So you got 12 and under.
There's a lot of kids that are in that 12 to maybe 15 age range that maybe don't have cell phones. I don't know.
Yeah, and parents, based on raising my kids, don't give your kids a cell phone until they're about 17.
Right.
That's just my opinion. If I had it to do all over again. So anyway, that's a good number. So let me bring up this next one here. Oh, we've already done that slide.
Yeah.
All right, hang on. I'll find another one here. We've already done that one. I think there was some duplicate slides in your emails, Rob.
Oh, was there?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I hope I sent them all to you.
That's a dupe. Oh, yeah. These were. Oh, that's weird. Why am I getting? Yeah, we went over all these. I don't think we went over this one.
There's two separate emails that I sent.
Yeah, I know. So here's a slide we haven't went over. Preview. Is it this one? Yeah. So here's monthly podcast listing. Oh, did we go over this already? No, I don't think so.
No. This is age, not gender.
Yeah. So why don't you talk to this, Rob?
Well, the biggest listener base, which is consistent with the other slide that we saw, is a 12 to 34 with 49% of, up from 42%. So the 12 to 34 is leading podcast listening today. And the age group 35 to 54 is about 40%. So it's about 9% lower, but it's up around 4% from 2018 or 2019. And then the 50 plus or the 55 plus is up, what was it, up 5% from 17 to 22. So, growth across the board, in all age demos. But it's interesting the shift that has happened. I guess if you look at the overall numbers, the 12 to 34 age group is really the only time that it was less than the 35 to 54, I guess, was back in 2017. So that age group has been climbing faster than the 35 to 54 age group for like 3 years now. So, yeah.
So I've just loaded the actual presentation.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So let me scroll through. There's a lot more in this thing too.
Right. Oh, yeah. You're going to have to flip through a lot of slides to get to the podcasting one too. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So let me go ahead and flip to this. And we'll make sure we've talked about all these. File, Chrome. All right. So, we already talked about 212 million people being familiar with podcasting. We already talked about percentage that have ever listened to. That's 155 million. Right. Don't know. Maybe we didn't talk about this slide, but this is the percentage that have ever listened to a show ever. And then those that have listened in the last month is 37%. And then monthly podcast listing, that's the slide this is the men-women breakdown.
Right. And we did talk about that.
Yeah. And this is the age group one that you just talked about. Yeah.
Right.
Well, here we go. So here's sex of monthly podcast listeners. U.S. population is 51 to 49. So, fellas, you have to work harder to get a date than the ladies do.
It looks like it's exactly reflective of the U.S. population.
But if we exclude all the weirders out there, fellas, you probably have a pretty good chance. And then talking about the weirdo guys, okay? So, and then let's look at this. So it breaks.
Todd, I don't think we're talking about the distribution of male and female having sex. I don't think that's no. Sorry, Todd.
Rob, you're going to get us in trouble.
No, that wasn't a dangerous thing.
Very dangerous. All right, so the breakdown is 51.49 for monthly podcast consumers 12 plus. So it just breaks exactly on the same lines as demographic.
Yeah, right. Which is amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, and then we already talked about this age group. Talked about the diversity. We talked about weekly. Talked about, here's the slide. This is a slide we have to really talk about. Is the average time listening to podcasts, which is varied between 4 minutes and 30 seconds in 2015 to 6:39 in 2020. So what this tells us, and this is what podcasters need to think about, is yes, we're gaining in the number of people listening, but they're only listening about the same amount. Now, what's the thing that shocks me here about this is that it's only 6 minutes and 39 seconds. I find this incredibly hard to believe that an average podcaster who listens to it's 6 some shows, I think it's another slide coming up, only listens 6 minutes and 39 seconds in a given week. How is this number right? This is the only one that's got me scratching my head. Oh, wait a minute. Hours. Duh. 6 hours and 39 minutes. Okay. I'm not 6 minutes.
Gotcha.
Tom, forgive me.
Well, that would make sense if you look at, I think the numbers came back. Was it the average podcast listener listens to, what was it, 5 or 6 podcasts? I think is
5 or 6.
What it turned out.
Well, I think it's the next slide. The average is 6 podcasts in the last week. Yeah.
And what's the average length of the most popular podcast?
The one I listen to is 3 hours and 30 minutes.
50. Well, no, it's like 50 to 60 minutes is the average length of the most popular podcasts out there.
So 6 hours. So again, for those of you listening, 6 hours and 39 minutes is the average in 2020, not 6 minutes and 39 seconds. I'm an idiot.
So that's listening in the last week.
In the last week, right.
Right.
So if they're only, I'll make the case again. If they're listening 6 hours and 39 minutes in a week,
and their average subscribing to 6 podcasts.
Is 6 podcasts. We have to build more audience.
Right.
Because if that's the average and it's not increasing, 6 hours 37, 6 hours 29, 6 hours 39. Yeah. If every new person we add grows to the 6 hours and 39 minutes, so you have to add earballs.
Yeah. So it's a big question. How do we add to that? And maybe we're going to see that number grow up because of what's happening in the world right now. But people are pretty busy in their lives, and that's what this is reflective of. Is what other listening or watching is this 6 hours and 39 minutes replacing? Right? What's the trend line on other media that people are listening to? I mean, like how much they're listening to music and how much they're watching YouTube, television, listening to radio. All those things factor into this number.
And to Tom's point, if people are now at home and they've been listening in the subway, in the car, on the bus,
right,
in the cube, at the gym, and those
are they going to listen more at home, or is home full of too many other distractions?
Right.
I think that's the biggest question, and it would be great to have some research. And I think there is research around how people consume podcasts, but with the new world order right now, I think that's going to get all scrambled up.
For me, I'm at the house alone. I'm here alone. My routine doesn't change. I'm listening to the same amount of stuff actually in the past week, probably not. I had the Bluetooth on.
Well, you're not a commuter, Todd. I mean, granted, we both have traveled a lot for podcasts, conferences and things like that, but that's not like a daily thing. We travel to a particular city and spend a week there, and then we go back, or whatever that duration is. Sure, we'll listen to podcasts on the plane on the way there and on the way back, but that's not like a daily commute.
Do we have to exclude ourselves, Rob? Because we're weirdos. Let's just think about. Let's just think about my mom. My mom listens to.
Right.
I know of at least 3 shows she listens to. Matter of fact, I catch her. I come out of where I'm staying, my loft. I've got my own space, and I walk over to where her house is, and I go in, and she's got, and it's not playing, it's playing on her computer. She's listening on a web browser, and it's playing. She's not listening to the earbud, and she's listened to the shows that she listens to. I've caught her dozens of times listening to podcasts. So it's, and I can hear which podcast she's listening to, and I'm like, what are they saying? Or, because I haven't caught up. And she'll come out and tell me later, you need to listen to this episode, or that of this, or this of that. So I know she's listened to more than 6 hours and 39 minutes, just based on, she listens in the evening, but a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people watch TV in the evening.
So if you figure that 6 hours and 39 minutes over a week, that's over 7 days. So you're looking at about 50 minutes a day?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Average?
Monday through Friday. Average commute time is 22 minutes one way. So 40 to 50 minutes each day listening.
Yep. All those things make sense.
So, and I always call it earballs, because I also say some of us are doing stuff to watch us. So we have to grow more ears that are listening to the space. That's the only way the space grows, is we have to get more people listening to more podcasts.
Right.
Because this number hasn't changed very much. The number of podcasts listened to in a week, it's varied a little bit. But
yeah, I think it's always been in the 5 to 6 range, mostly for the whole life of the medium.
Yeah. So if you look at this, 1, 11%, 2, 21%, 3, 19, 4 to 5, 19, 6 to 10, 18%. So, you look at this 3, 4, 5, 6 is really probably the range, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But there are a lot of people that have 10, 18% is a big chunk that have as much as 10. So that's pulling these numbers a little higher too, which is probably why you're seeing the 6 hours and 39 minutes. So it's pulling a little more towards the more subscriptions.
So my understanding of this was 1,500 telephone respondents, and they use all the standard surveying, quote unquote, all the right things to do a survey, and if you look over the years, the survey result data has stayed pretty steady. So it shows the sampling seems to do very well.
Yeah.
So
well, and also, I mean, you have to wonder too. There is a growing number of daily podcasts too, which could skew that number a little higher as well. But I don't believe that the daily podcasts are taking a significant chunk of podcast consumption, though.
I'm not listening to any daily shows right now. None.
Right.
Personally,
right.
0.
Yep.
So, observation. Monthly podcast consumers grew by 16% year over year, cresting 100 million Americans for the first time. What's the next one? Approximately 169 million Americans listened to online audio in the last week. So just read. It's not podcasting at all. It's online audio in the last week, spending an average of over 15 hours doing so.
Right.
More than 6 in 10 Americans use some form of voice assistant technology. I can go back up and show some of that. It is incumbent upon the content producer to ensure their content is easily retrievable through voice. And I keep telling people, you got to train your listeners. And I tell, it's very simple. In my show, I say, and I don't use the word Alexa. I say, use the magic word to launch your smart home device and say the word play the podcast new media show. And that will get the latest episode started in most instances. Let me back up because and for those of you that are listening, there's like 50 or 60 slides in this presentation, 78 slides. And it covers everything. It covers social media. We'll start into it. It talks about media and technology. Here's that slide that talks about smart home ownership at 85% or 240 million.
It's basically flatlined since 2017, pretty much 81% through 85% over those 4 years. Yeah.
So the saturation is going to happen, has happened. Here's an interesting one. Tablet ownership has dipped a little bit because I think the phones are getting bigger. And I even find myself using my phone sometimes more than my tablet now because the phones have gotten big enough.
Over 6 inches.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
But this is the one that really kind of shocks me that isn't getting further penetration is smartwatch ownership hanging at around 17%.
Yeah. Wonder why.
I don't know, Cost is, if you own a cell phone, you paid $1,000 for a cell phone.
One thing that I'd like to see too is what's the demographic breakdown of a smartphone ownership? Is it skewed towards older Americans or older people in general, or are younger people? What's the adoption on the younger side of these devices?
Yeah.
Is a question that I have.
But here's one I don't think anyone's surprised at. It's the same thing, smart speaker awareness. Talking about how many people are aware of any smart speaker brand, 78%.
It looks like it's topped out too.
How can people, if you've ever bought anything on Amazon, they stick it in your face. So how can you have missed a smart speaker? I guess it's that 22% that's under 12 years of age. They know about it more than, kids are telling their devices to play music and stuff. So they know about it, but that's not who they're talking to in these surveys. They're talking to people 12 plus. So,
yeah.
Let's move on here. Smart speaker ownership is 27%. That continues to grow. I think this one here is evident. Amazon, Google, and Apple HomePod.
But that's only in the U.S. So, the Amazon smart speaker is 21%, and the Google one is 11%. But when you look outside of the U.S., those numbers flip. So,
you think
Google
so?
Product.
Well, yeah, maybe.
It is. People are very much, because if you think about it, outside of the U.S. is so strong with Android. People are in the Google ecosystem outside of the U.S. more than they are even the Apple ecosystem, as well as the Amazon ecosystem.
Number of smart speakers in the household, 3 or more. I've got 2 here in this office and one here. I know that my kids in Hawaii have at least 2 in the house there. So
I have one sitting on my desk right here.
Yeah. So, they're in bedrooms, they're in dens, they're in kitchens.
Yeah. And they're more and more going to be installed in mirrors and appliances and in your car. All those places too.
Let's see here. Oh, this is the one that should not be as a surprise. Number of radios. The Radio Star AM FM radios. In 2020, 0, 32%, 1 to 3, 58%, and 4 or more, 10%. Again, number of radios in household.
Now, this wasn't really clear on one question I had around online radios. Are they counting online streaming radios, or are they talking about just straight broadcast radios? It wasn't clear.
By the way, Tom says they don't flip, but Google catches up in reference to your delta between Amazon devices and Google devices. So, Tom, what on this question is, what is it again, Rod, that you want to ask, because Tom's watching?
Oh, about the radios. Are we talking about or including online radios that connect to Wi-Fi, or are we just talking strictly of the broadcast radio or receivers here in this data?
In my house, I have 0. Whoa, wait, I'll take that back. In my stereo deck, there is one, but there's no antenna hooked to it.
Okay. Oh, right.
So I guess I technically have to say own one.
Right.
So
I don't have one. I don't have one anymore.
Rob, you're supposed to have one in case of a national emergency.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's right.
Okay.
We were close to a national emergency.
Okay, I have a Zune that captures radio. So,
all right. So, and let's see here. Total U.S. population. Oh, it breaks down by age. This should not come as a shock. 12 plus, 32 have 0. Age 18 to 34 have 0. 52%. Age 35 plus, 23% have 0. But you can see that the older folks definitely have, more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Which stands to reason, I guess.
Yeah.
They've probably been there a long time.
And there's some comparisons between radio ownership and smart speaker stuff. I don't want to really go into that. Let's see here. Social media usage. It's flat. Basically 77 to 80%.
It's probably only up because of the Instagram platform, I think, is the one that's growing.
TikTok is just kicked off, and Instagram is growing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 87 to 91, where Facebook is 94 to 95. Aware of social media brand, and maybe I should go down here and actually using. Yeah, 62 to 63, 36 to 41.
Okay, I guess Facebook actually grew to 2%, right? And
1%.
It looks like
2% from last year.
And Instagram grew 2% as well. So those are riding along the same percentages, which makes sense in a way because those two are linked together.
It's interesting that WhatsApp is growing a little bit, but of course TikTok is exploding. Yeah. Facebook usage, from 2015 to now, it's hovered in the 60s with a little dip in 18, 62, 61, 63. So they've gained some some ground back, not much. And then Facebook usage. This is what blows me away, is this age group using Facebook that are 12 to 34. I thought we would have seen a drop there, but
it's dropped a little with the 55 plus.
Yeah.
That's the only demo that's actually dropped.
Well, a percentage point.
I know, but
it's not really dropped.
That's gotten lower. I'm saying.
Yeah. And social media brand usage. Move on from that. Here. What else? Live stream video games. 15% saying yes. Currently ever watch a live stream video games is even between 19 and 20, and ever played a video game and streamed it live, 7 and 9%. But here's the funny thing. We're on Twitch right now doing this show. You know,
we're not a game.
We're not a game. Ever lives, and here's the interesting: the 11% of women.
All the same from year to year.
Yeah.
So it's not growing and not declining. Yeah.
So not
currently ever watched.
Yeah.
There's more women watching it now.
Online audio. Again, this is online audio listing. This is overall. Online audio listening to AM/FM radio stations online and or listening to streamed audio content available only on the internet. So this is Spotify, Pandora, all those. 68% and 192 million. Monthly online audio listening to AM/FM radio stations. Again, same demo, 12 to 34. I'm this one here. If you have any children in your vehicle, you can absolutely be guaranteed they're part of this 85 to 86 percentile range over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But look at the 55 and up. It's growing.
Yeah.
But this 35 to 50.
The biggest increase was the 35 to 54.
Right.
Up 6%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, these numbers include podcasting, right?
No. No. This is, online audio.
Is it only streaming only?
Let me read it. Only? Online audio, listening to AM/FM radio stations online and or listening to streamed audio content available only on the internet. So, yeah, I guess.
If it's streamed, what's the definition here?
Okay, they're not going to say downloaded and listen or subscribed and listen. They're going to say, have you streamed any audio content? So, because the average Joe could care too less. They're pressing play and it's playing. So,
but I think it's
all inclusive.
Look forward, Tom, maybe I don't know. I know you probably don't want to draw a distinction here, but that may be helpful.
There's no way the average, they don't care, Rob. They just want to hit play and listen.
No, that's right.
You're not. That's why he does a separate podcast section. So
right.
But this is, again, little drop between 19 and 20, and average time listening spent to online audio, 16 hours and 43 minutes down to 15:12.
It would be helpful to know if these numbers include podcasting or not.
Here's your brand awareness. Pandora. How could not anyone in the country know about iHeartRadio? They advertise everywhere. So that advertising money they have spent has been horrible, because if people aren't aware of iHeart by now, look at the money they've spent. And Pandora, I don't ever see ads for Pandora.
Right.
And they barely edged out Spotify in awareness. This is awareness of audio brand. And it goes down Pandora, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Google Play.
I believe Spotify just passed Pandora.
We've got a slide. Hang on. They've got
weekly or monthly users, though.
Yeah, they've got right here. Listen to an audio brand on the last month. Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, iHeartRadio down to 11. Yahoo! Google Play and SoundCloud.
Right.
And here's the breakout by growth. Pandora's dropped 5%. Pandora's picked up 1%. Amazon Music's picked up 2%. iHeartRadio dropped a little bit. Can't remember. There was a takeaway they had in here, but Pandora dropping is kind of an interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the one. Percent listened to audio brand in the last month. And this is where Spotify is winner, chicken dinner. 48%.
This
is 12 to 34. 12 to 34,
right.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I mean, Pandora is an older user listening.
I use Pandora over Spotify.
And you look at Amazon Music, and they're up 5%.
But I use
a younger.
I use Apple Music at the gym. Apple Music is my go-to in the gym because I've got my playlist set up.
Right, and that was growing as well.
And here's the 35 to 54. Pandora still dropped a couple percentage points, and Spotify picked up 2. But look at the big jump on Apple Music or Amazon Music, 16 to 20.
Right.
So, again, those of you listening, I'm sorry if we're not being descriptive enough. We can, these slides are available.
Right.
But audio brands listened to in the last week, 12 plus, 22% on Spotify, 18% on Pandora. So let's see here, what else? Yeah, that was a combination. In-car media, still very, very slow. Adoption by some reason. Own digital music increase. But I wonder oftentimes if that's not tied to stuff that's in your Apple Music playlist or you're in your... So basically what they're saying is the own digital music increase from 45 to 48%, where AM, FM radio stayed in the 81% range.
Well, it doesn't show much of a decline for radio in the car, does it?
No, not at all. Podcast jumped 2%. Online radio jumped 5% to 33%. CD player, not surprising, 49, 43, 41. I haven't played a CD in a car in over 10 years.
So it's really safe to say that radio is looking like they're pretty safe when it comes to in-car listening.
Well, this is
so
really,
far.
Yeah. And this is, this is a long haul, but you look here, this is in-dash information entertainment systems. Percent owning an in-dash information entertainment system in a car, 2020, 18%.
Huh.
Well, it's a long road. I think about the car I had. I had a 2009 Mazda CX-9. It had no information entertainment system. I gave that son to my, when I left Hawaii, I gave that car to my son in 2019. So, I drove that car for 10 years, put 237,000 miles on it, bought my new Ford Edge here, and it now has a in-dash information entertainment system. So if I plug in my iPhone, it gives me auto Apple Play or an Android, or it does its own dealio, and it still doesn't.
This tells me that people are keeping their cars longer.
Oh, Rob.
Yeah.
Most people drive their cars. There's I think only the rich or people that don't have a lot of financial sense change their vehicles every 3 years.
Right.
I'm thrifty. I drive until the wheels fall off.
Right. But from 2018 to 2019, we saw a 4% increase, which maybe.
But if you look
back in that time frame, people were
So,
I don't know.
So if we
think a bunch of older cars that people recycled into buying new ones.
But if you look at 2013, it was 6%. So if it was, I would expect to see by 2023 that number to start jumping considerably.
Yeah.
Because again, 10 years maybe on replacement of vehicles, this is going to be slow to grow. And some of those in-dash information entertainment systems, you have to, if you want the good system, you have to pay a premium. Now, Ford and stuff does some basic stuff, but they look at CarPlay 9%, Android Audio 5%. But I think this is the number here that really is the one that most people use. I use my cell phone in my car, so that's up to 45%. Ever listen to online audio in a car through a cell phone? 45%.
Mm-hmm.
Even my 2009 vehicle had Bluetooth. So I think this will just continue to grow.
Yeah, I agree.
They've just made it easy. Anyway, we went through this whole thing. Overall, you want to see more growth in some areas, and, it's not always possible.
Yeah. And there's a lot of factors that go into changes in these things, and I'm a little surprised at the changes in the numbers around in-car listening and how slow that's been. Yeah, and same with the smart speakers. I mean, those numbers are still fractional. I look at the Lipson numbers around people consuming and these smart agent technologies, the smart speakers, and it's still just a fraction of a fraction.
So what used to happen when I was living in Hawaii is I would say, hey, whatever the device, play something, and within 5 minutes there would be someone in the house complaining, turn it down.
Right.
Turn it up. That sucks. So I'd stop the one in the living room and walk into my office and shut the door and just use my phone.
Podcasting is a private listening.
Well, not just
right?
podcasting, but if I wanted to play AC/DC,
right,
and that's like kind of my go-to. Let's get pumped up music, and I did that through my smart speaker. There would be at least one adult child in my house that would be like, "Dad, that sucks.
What are you doing?
Turn it off."
Because everybody's a music critic.
Right. And there would be a war over playing. So I just did right here. I just had my earbuds in, had my own thing, and they did the same thing. So this is why smart home speakers are not taking off. And I bet you during this time when there's all the kids are home and mom and dad are both home as we're all quarantined here,
right.
Soon to be martial law, maybe, who knows? They're not going to call it that.
No, they won't call it that.
We're all going to want our own little space, and where's our space? Right here in our ears, right? So
that's our personal space.
That's right. Yeah. Someone's, it's not very often your kids are going to come up to you and say, "What do you listen to, Dad?" And you take it off and let them hear, a podcast. They're going to go, "Ugh," and they're going to go listen to something else. Or if they're listening to some music, they're going to like, "Who's that?" Like, "Well, that's ZZ Top." And they're like, "Who's that?"
Right.
Or vice versa, where I say, "What are you listening to?" And I'm like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "I don't know either." So that's why smart speakers have not taken off from a listening percentage. That's my opinion, because we've all got these, and everyone in the house either has a tablet or something else.
And they've been hard to navigate too. And I did notice that the Amazon platform has shifted to asking multiple questions without having to prompt the agent. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
They recently made a change to that, so you can ask a question, answers, so you can have more of a conversation with the Amazon platform versus what you could do before. So I think that's a big evolutionary change too, and it just needs to become more natural language too, and less structured language.
So,
Todd, go ahead.
So I did have a special message. I hope you'll be able to hear this, Rob. So if you can hear this when I play this, then you can give me the thumbs up. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait about 30 seconds. But I want to show you an initiative that we started over at Blueberry.
COVID-19, better known as coronavirus, has spread throughout the world. There are a few ways to help lower the spread of this respiratory disease. Wash your hands. Avoid touching your face, including mouth, nose, and eyes. Cover your coughs and sneezes. Monitor your symptoms and consult with your doctor. Stay at home and away from other sick people except for medical care. Clean and disinfect high-touch surfaces. For more information, please visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Thank you.
So we went looking for public service announcements for audio, and all we found were TV public service announcements. We couldn't find any PSAs that were designed for audio alone.
Mm-hmm.
So we created 4 PSAs for podcasters. And why aren't there readily available PSAs for podcasters? How come no one's done that yet?
Trying to think. They've been readily available for radio for many, many years.
We went looking. So maybe we're just not looking in the right place. So maybe I will put out a challenge to our audience. If you,
I used to play them on my radio show.
Yeah. So
many years ago.
Let me know how we get on distribution for audio only PSAs that are put together by the government in these types of situations,
Yeah.
Because we found a video source, and then there's all kinds of rules on how you can use them. So we made our own PSAs.
I mean, radio stations have been running public service radio spots for years and years.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there is an online source for them that you can download the MP3s.
Yeah. So if anybody knows that source, we just couldn't find them. So let us know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's probably on a government website.
Yeah, we were looking around, and
You didn't find anything.
We found lots of video ones
that's interesting.
that were not allowed to be repurposed as audio. Specific rules saying you could not.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that there's it's like a council. Was it FCC? I think it's linked up with the Federal Communications Agency. If I think back to it.
So we had our Blueberry Pro team put those together for us. We took information directly off the CD site, and we've I think as of yesterday, we've got about 250 shows that have agreed to run them. And so we're gonna.
So you created a web page you can go in and download them?
We basically anyone that's on it has a Blueberry account. You've had to have claimed your show. You just go to the podcaster dashboard in the area that says, and we had to put it underneath our campaign system where it says make money. You'll see where it says add I think it says, anyway, you'll notice it says add yourself to the CDC campaign or something to that effect.
Right.
And you'll be able to add yourself and then get access to so what we're going to try to do is we don't make it mandatory. No one's getting paid for this. This is we hope that people come back and report their time hacks so that we can have a little bit of stuff that we don't have no one to report this to. So we're going to at least make a blog post and, in 30 days and say, we ran, 182 public service announcements and, and it reached this many people through downloads or this many downloads and be able at least, so a little initiative to see if we can, because we're all probably already tired of it, to be honest with you, because we're getting hit in 5 ways to Sunday. But if we can do our part, we can do our part.
Right. No, I think it's a good idea. The Podcast Academy has its next governor's board meeting coming up on April 1st. I think it's all going to be just a call-in type of situation. But I'm assuming that organization is marching forward with what they're planning to do. I hope to be on the call to learn more about what they're planning to do, but that appears to be moving forward. And the PRX Privacy Symposium at the Podcasting Threats Conference that happened earlier this month in New York, they posted the videos from 4 of the panel sessions from that event. I think some in the podcast community were a little bit upset that there wasn't more information that came out of that event to share with the broader community. So now that has been put out anyway. I think that those 4 panels were pretty reflective of the conversation or the topics that were covered at that event. So I think I think it was good that got released. And I believe it's on it's on a Medium website. And I think James Cridland posted a link to it on his newsletter on March 20th. So if you wanted to go into watch some of those videos from that particular Threats to Podcasting Symposium, it really focused a lot on privacy, but there was other topics that were talked about too as part of that. So I would go check that out if you're interested in that event and what was discussed there.
So how's your team getting input from, what's the general thread you're hearing from your customers?
Well, it's similar to what you were talking about earlier. The support stuff has kind of cooled off a little bit. But the signups and the activity around the platform is pretty much maintaining the same cadence as what we've seen prior to all this. But I also think, Todd, we haven't really seen the full impact of this either. I think it's still, there's concern that depending on how bad the economy gets, that there could be a hit. We just don't know yet. We don't know if there's going to be some sort of a new medication that comes out or that's made available that can kind of cap this thing at a certain amount. But it's interesting kind of what's going on in the bigger scheme of things. But we're not making any big changes in what we're doing. We're just trying to support the community probably with more online activities, right? Because there's no conferences, right?
Yep.
So I don't know about you, Todd. I know you got hit up to be on a podcast conference with Joe Pardo, I believe, next weekend.
Yep.
Probably that's going to happen after we do the show next week. So I think we're going to see definitely an uptick in virtual conferences, I think is what's going to wind up happening.
Yeah, I agree. And, we even talked about taking our event that we planned on doing, the Blueberry Academy, the first one in June. And We're going to take that virtual, and maybe we can move the schedule up a little bit. But, what really kind of surprises me is I've gotten a couple of tickets with people in sheer panic that have never recorded on their own. They've only went to a studio and recorded. And I'm like, you can continue your show. Your show doesn't have to end. And we're pointing them towards resources. And actually, I got one email back, and maybe this is going to hurt the studio that she's been working out of. She goes, I'm never going back to the studio. This was easy.
Right.
They had done, and they used Zoom, and she paid for Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And she was able to record right on Zoom, and they could see each other. And she says, why have I been going to a studio all this time? And I was like, gulp, and she says, we're going to 2 a week instead of 1 a week. And I thought, okay, a plus. Then,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So then on the opposite token, there's been a few that have, they're struggling with tech a little bit. And I think there's enough tools out there. There's Zencastr has really opened up their allowances for free accounts. You've got, obviously some of these are paid tools. You got GoToMeeting. You've got StreamYard. Some of these that allows you to record. There's lots of ways to do this now without. And the only limitation maybe is maybe they don't have as good of a mic. Maybe in the studio they have one of these, an SMB7, and maybe in their home they only have a Audio-Technica mic or something, or maybe they're having to work with the computer microphone for a little while here. But I think it can really work both ways. So that's the big thing that we've been seeing coming in is podcasters really kind of panicking about that haven't done a show like you and I do here, or maybe they've always had their partner, right next to them at their kitchen table or something. Right. So podcasting should be able to thrive in this space. There should be no reason why anyone has to stop their episodes. As a matter of fact, it should be easier to do interviews. Because one gal said, well, all the professors, we used to go to the school and do all these interviews with professors. And I'm like, the professors are at home.
Right.
And you can do an interview again over Zoom or Skype or something like that. And I said, maybe they've even got more time. Joe Pardo and I knocked an interview out over lunch this past week. He was our latest guest on Podcast Insider. And so to knock an interview out when they're on lunch, even if they're working remotely, this is a good time to rack up some interviews, because what else you doing, right? Maybe you're working from home for 8 hours, but there's still lunch, there's still a break, there's still
Right.
everyone's captive right now. We have a captive audience pretty much across the United States.
Yeah, and it looks like Amazon still has microphones. I think there was something that was put out in the news that Amazon's going to prioritize shipments or whatever around essentials.
But you still get it in.
But yeah, I mean, you can still get like a Samsung Q2U. I'm looking at Amazon right now. It's available. It says they only have 5 left in stock, but I don't know if that's just a marketing gimmick that they put on their pages. But for $74.99, you can get the full kit with the headphones too.
Right.
So,
or just use your earbuds until
Right.
I recorded this show doing an earbud before, just having
Right.
Apple earbuds in.
That's true.
And it's not the best, but it's not horrible.
And
Well, look at what's going on the major media. Everyone's plugged into.
Yeah, and they're having their struggles just like a podcaster does.
Yeah.
What I've noticed. Yeah, I mean, I think it is really, really interesting how the major media has really started to really embrace what we've been doing for years. And
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
And I think we do it better.
Well, I would hope after all these years that we would do it better.
Well, last week was not an example of that.
No, it wasn't. Right. Yeah. But I did see on Amazon that you can get the Samsung Q2U microphone for just $59, and it looks like they don't put any kind of limit on how many are available. So,
And if you have the budget, let's say you're saving studio costs because you're not going to the studio.
Right.
You're not paying that bill. And that, I don't know what it costs to be in a studio these days, but maybe it's time to invest in a Rodecaster. Maybe it's because, you got a MacBook and you plug that thing right into the Rodecaster. You've got the ability there to do, you can have you can have one person on Skype. You can have one person in on their cell phone, so there's plenty of opportunity, and one person in on Bluetooth. So there's lots of ways. I think you can have, and plus 4 guests, but if you're alone, no reason why you can't do your show. And that's a healthy investment. Don't get me wrong. But what if this goes on 8 weeks, ladies and gentlemen? What if we're stuck in our homes for 8 weeks? Maybe it's, and if if you can still afford a Rodecaster because you're still employed, it might be time to order one. But
and you may not even need one, depending on the kind of show.
If you're doing a solo show,
or if you're doing it via
Zoom,
one person with a co-host on like a Zoom or one of these other platforms like a Squadcast,
Zoom
or a StreamYard. You don't even need one of these things.
Zoom for free. We'll do the Zoom version. The Zoom meeting feature for free is 40. We'll record 45 minutes. So if your show's under 45 minutes, you don't even have to pay Zoom.
But if you want to add like live intro music,
right,
or live
you're gonna have
exits,
to edit
or
it
play
later.
kind of audio, that's pre-recorded in your show on any of those platforms, it would be helpful to have one of these things. I just went to Amazon and looked, and they're available on Amazon for $5.99 with free shipping.
So how did I play the little audio piece that I just played? I used old school Winamp.
Right.
I had an audio out of the computer.
Right.
This is not rocket science. But I do have a mixer.
Right.
So, but if you're not doing live, you just patch it in later anyway and post edit.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah.
You can do post production. Just get a good wave editing software package.
Yep.
They're pretty inexpensive.
And there was actually, I won't say which group it is in. I guess it's a better to say Old Fogies group or a OG group.
OG.
And there was a little bit of a discussion thread about this where people were saying, some of the participants were laughing about people panicking and not being able to record their shows because they couldn't go to a studio or someplace to be able to record. And we're all,
Right. It's not that hard.
No, it's not that hard. And this is how, in the beginning, how we all did it. There was no studios to go to.
It was actually more complicated in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, recording the audio, it was more complicated because there was no USB microphones. You had to have a mixer.
It was all analog. So you had to, somehow get it into a computer, which was complicated.
Yeah, you had to have a recorder.
Yeah, I had to have a sound card that was installed in my computer. That it was an interface via FireWire to my exactly. They created that connection via FireWire, not through USB.
Yeah.
So those were more. I mean, that was basically like a tuner card that connected up with software.
I've got a mixer in my storage room just across the hallway there that still has a FireWire output. It's still a standard mixer. I can still do but no computers have FireWire anymore. So,
and it's a common thing that's used with video. That type of connection.
Or was, I think. I don't think anymore.
Right.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how old your hardware is, but it's done through digital now. But
yeah, I think I don't think my trash can Mac has FireWire anymore. I think it was just, maybe it does. Maybe it's the last machine I have that has a FireWire connection on it.
Right.
But maybe not. I don't know. It's hooked up to one of those drives where, anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah. So.
But I think, so don't get discouraged. And what we need, though, for all of you that listen to the show, because you're very Akamai, or very aware on how to do podcasting multiple ways, is we need to help these podcasters that are panicking a little bit about how to record their shows. So we just need to give them some advice and point them in the right direction. And it's not that complicated. It seems complicated until you do it one or two times.
Right. And you just work the bugs out as you go through it, just like what we had to do last week.
Yeah.
Todd had to dig into the wires and figure out what was wrong.
Oh, I figured it out literally 5 minutes after we stopped the show, and I turned around and I was pissed, and I'm like, what is wrong? And I'm like, but I just opened this menu up and made like a half a tweak adjustment, and Mike was on with when we did I had him call in 15 minutes early because we're double checking the audio. And I see today it's clipping a little bit. I've got things set up a little bit too hot right now. So, but that's just a software thing on my side. I get that taken care of and adjust it a little more. But So what say you? Let's say you on the chat room here. I've been watching. You guys have been chit-chatting back and forth quite a little bit.
Yeah, what's on?
And Rick says the Rodecaster Pro is on MAP pricing, so $599 is going to be the going price across the board. If you find a new RCP online for much less than that, don't touch it. It probably isn't genuine and will not be supported by Rode. So whatever MAP pricing it is, I don't know. Manufacturer something price.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But we've had a good turnout in the live show today. I hope
that's good.
Yep. We got 14 people on Facebook. We've got a number of folks that are watching us on Twitter. We have decent views on YouTube. So glad you're all here. So yeah, we're on Twitch. We're on Periscope. We're on 3 Facebook pages.
Good.
But I don't know, Rob. So are you like bunkered down completely? Got enough food?
Yeah, definitely.
So my sister's daughter went out yesterday, and they were I live 7 miles from the Indiana state line, and they were down in Angola, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And they made like this frantic call to my sister saying, there's toilet paper in the store.
Rush down there and get that right away.
And I'm good. I've got a good roll count, and because my sister texted me and she says, you need toilet paper? I said, nope, I'm good. I don't need any toilet paper, so don't buy me any. And but my sister's got a house, all the kids are home, my mom's there, and their toilet paper count was getting to the point where she's probably got 2 weeks supply. So the kids bought it back at 32 rolls. So I think they're good for a little while.
Yeah, that should last a while.
And
is it 2-ply or 1-ply?
No. I told my brother-in-law what you need to do is you need to have a toilet paper dispenser where you're giving them 4, four squares.
Time, right?
That's it. That's all you get. 4 squares at a time. So
we're rationing toilet paper, Todd.
But
the world must be coming to an end.
But it was kind of funny. I had to pick up what I wanted to pick up. I picked up. I need. And that's another thing. People are going crazy over distilled water. You do know that there is a way to make distilled water. There is no
fill it up and then you just let it sit.
Well, no, there's a process to make distilled water. It's not magic, but if you need distilled water for like a CPAP machine or something like that, you can make your own distilled water. It's not complicated. Just Google it; it'll show you. So I went in to pick up. I wasn't going to make my own, and I went until I went into the store, and I'm like, "There's no water." There was no water in the store. There was no bottled water, and I'm like, you do know you shouldn't drink distilled water.
Yeah, there's nothing in it, right?
Yeah. So I was amazed that they were still out of water per se, but everything else seemed to be well stocked and right. But the week before I was in there and there was, this is a funny one. I don't know if I told it on the last show or not, but maybe it's about a week ago, and I buy $30, $40 worth of groceries. It's just me, right? I don't need much food. And I go down the frozen aisle because I'm going to get 2 frozen pizzas. And there's a gal with 3 carts in the aisle. Two daughters were pushing carts, and she had a cart. And she had that cart full of frozen meals. And I looked at her, I said, wow. I said, how many freezers do you have at home? And she looked at me kind of funny. And I stopped and opened the door and got 2 frozen. And she's putting frozen food back in to the freezer.
She didn't think that she didn't think about the fact she doesn't have the storage for it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of snuck down the aisle and went around and came back, and I kind of peeked down there, and she had like a normal amount, like, 4 or 5 things of frozen food, but she had an entire shopping cart full of frozen food. And I know she probably, she had this ding moment, right? Like, yeah, I don't have freezer space for all this food. And, I understand people are panicking and worried, and she's got to feed her kids and family, but, and now in the freezer section, there's things that you're limited to 5 items. You can only take 5.
Right.
So, but one thing that did concern me that I was a little bit, and we probably got some truck drivers that listen to this show. So my sister has a laundromat, and instead of doing laundry at the house, I just bring my laundry to work, and then I walk next door and do the laundry at my sister's laundromat. And it's just easier. Put all in at once. It's, I'm done in an hour with 3 loads or whatever it is I have to do. And so there's a guy, and we're all doing social distancing, and they're being real good about wiping counters down. And it's, it's probably you walk in and it smells clean. And there's a truck driver standing there, and I'm just kind of, backed off, talking to him a little bit. And I said, so what are you seeing? He's saying, we're having a hard time finding a place to eat and having a hard time finding a place to sleep. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, a truck can't drive through a drive-through, and a semi-truck can't drive through a drive-through, and we're not allowed to walk up to a drive-through. I said, huh. So I said, how are you eating? He says, mom and pop shops that have signs outside of their businesses that say that they will
have takeout.
They have takeout. They'll meet you at the door and give you takeout. But he says, where'd I park the truck to get takeout? I have to walk a quarter of a mile to get someplace that has takeout. I'm thinking, okay, so, and plus some of the rest areas in Pennsylvania, they closed them to trucks, and it's just, there's a lot of stuff going on there. And I'm like, this is insanity. So if I had a food truck, I would ask the governor for permission to set up food truck in rest areas on the highways to sell food.
For the truckers that drive through.
For the truckers that drive through, because you're going to be in the open, plenty of social spacing because you're outside.
Right.
Don't set up tables where people can sit down. Just let them come up, do the transaction, take their food, and go. To me, I'm like, why? We got to keep truckers fed. And
so they can keep moving the groceries.
So they can keep moving the groceries. And number two is, why is there such an issue for trucks to be able to pull? He says, we can pull over the side of the road on the median. He says, but can you imagine trying to sleep with vehicles driving by at 70 miles an hour? And I'm like, you got a point. And he says, plus a safety issue. He says, in the back of your mind, you're worried about someone running into you. And so he says the state police has been brutal on them on where they park and are trying to sleep. So no one's out. So why don't mall owners, Walmart, all these places that have big parking lots, why don't they open these up for these truck drivers to? But he said the sleeping issue has been an issue for years, but it's worse now. Why don't we do this to help these? So if anybody knows anybody in authority, I tried to do a little social media thing yesterday to get the word out. There's
a good idea, Todd.
There's solutions out there for these folks, and got to use a little common sense, right? But here's
creativity. What we're doing.
Here's an interesting fact: trucks that are hauling medicine do not have to. They can run 14 hours straight. They don't have to and I don't know what the rules are on how much time truckers have to. They have so many hours they can be rolling before they have to take so many hours of break. So these guys are not. They're smart. Let's remove these arbitrary limits for the time being and let this freight move. And medical or not, let's let it roll, and let these truck drivers who are professionals, let them choose when they need to sleep, and it gives them more flexibility too. A lot of them drive for a certain period because if they stop, the counter's still running on the time. So, let them drive 3 hours, stop someplace and sleep for 3 or 4 hours where they can actually pull off and stop and then get in and drive for 8 hours. It's
right.
But that's just one of many things another thing I've observed this week was there's a sporting store really, really close to my office. And I went in there looking for a specific item. And as I got near the back, there was elbow to elbow people buying guns. And I was just, and the whole shop, all the workers there looked haggard, and I'm like, I heard
that a lot of them are sold out, right?
And I asked him, I said, what's going on? He says, and this was Wednesday, and he said, we normally sell 10 to 15 guns this time of year in a week. He said, we've sold over 500 guns this week alone. And he says, you go over 2 aisles, it says the ammo's empty. We're out. So, and I'm like, so what's the percentage of existing gun? Because I'm living in a rural community, and I almost guarantee about 90% of homes in this community already have a gun or two in them. It's just the way it is,
or more
in a rural America. And I'm like, who's buying these guns? He says 85% of them are brand new gun owners. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, wow. So people are. And I heard this is nationwide, so people are scared. So if you are a new gun owner, please, YouTube is not the place to completely learn how to handle a gun. It's a good start, but just be careful.
I'm sure there's not going to be any gun training schools operating, though.
Right. Just be careful if you're a new gun owner. Pay attention. Around in the chamber is not a good. If you're a new gun owner, around in the chamber is not something you should do. You rack around when you need it. You don't rack around just to have it there. That's how people get killed. So, and maybe someone in your house. So please be careful if you hadn't had no gun safety classes before.
Right.
And I don't care what your position on guns is we don't want anybody shooting themselves accidentally. But when you have if you're a new gun owner, you need to be very, very careful.
Right. Hey, Todd, I did hear that the Podcast Movement folks said that they're still planning on going forward with the event. And I'm sure that the She Podcasting event is still in planning stages as well. So we can all be hopeful that things kind of settle down before we get into August.
Yeah. Rob, you did you see any other weird stuff going on in your community? Anything of note?
Not that I've seen. That's really, it's just very, very quiet. There's not a lot of activity. The grocery stores are still pretty busy when you go into them.
Yeah.
I try and minimize my trips to grocery stores. Yeah.
But here on the roads, I don't see much difference in traffic, at least in this community.
People are still out moving around.
People are still moving around.
Right.
Business is still going. Businesses are still open here. Just restaurants, bars are
where people congregate.
Yeah, are closed.
Yeah.
So, shops, Walmart's open. All the big chain stores are open.
Right.
So
this is boom time for the big, Amazon.com they announced 100,000 people they're going to hire, and Walmart said they're going to hire 150,000 people.
So I guess another thing too is, if you are working and you can support your local business with a takeout or two in the next coming week.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so I'm specifically, because I'm here in the office, I'm specifically supporting not big chains. I'm supporting the smaller restaurants at lunchtime, doing a takeout for lunch. Right. And
because we could lose most of the small restaurants in the whole country if this goes on for much more than probably a month.
And I know many folks are not, you're without a job right now, and you're reacting, and believe me, I feel for you. My two kids both lost their jobs in Hawaii, and but it's also, for me, I'm a little, I'm a little hardcore. I'm dad. I'm like, this is why you need a degree. So that was my eyewitness. That's me being dad against the kids. Like, okay, this is why a college degree is good. Doesn't completely protect you, but in the industry they're working in, they had no protection. So,
right. Yeah. Todd, just based on your history in the military and stuff, how do you think that side of the government is reacting to this? What's your gut?
Well, they locked them down. I've got buddies that are, they're DOD. I know a couple of DOD employees. They were in Florida. They went back to Hawaii, and DOD self-quarantined them in their home for 14 days from their own travel. They are emergency essential, so they basically they have to be able to go anywhere at any time. So the government says you will stay home for 2 weeks since you've just been on travel. Right. They're limiting active duty military people from traveling. They're basically pretty much on lockdown anyway. I think people get a misperception about the military. It's a business. It's one of the biggest businesses in the world, and it's a self-contained ecosystem to a certain extent, but they're heavily reliant on the same stuff that you and I are. Same suppliers, same medicine, food chains, that, all that stuff is the same. So I think if it's internally, they're going to be okay. It scares the living crap out of me when I hear that someone on a ship has gotten COVID-19, because that is an ultimate closed ecosystem, and the whole ship's going to be sick. There's just no way. It's just like a cruise ship, and you're living tight quarters. So we will see what happens there, but I think that the people we have to be really worried about is our health professionals. There's when the whole planet melts down like it is right now, no one can plan for that. There's no way anyone can plan for that. There's no way.
Right.
There's just no way that there's enough respirators, enough PPE, there's no way you could ever have planned for the whole planet. They're literally needing exactly the same thing at the same time, and people are going to be pointing a lot of fingers, but you're screwed. If you're in leadership position, you're screwed. There's no way you can overcome the monumentum of this. I said a couple of days ago, I predict that the whole country will be locked down by Monday, but in all honesty, I think if I was in charge, that's what I would do. I would say, let's put the whole country in lockdown. It's going to be ugly, but let's go to a halt for 15 days and try to get this curve flattened out. And New York's going to be in trouble. If you live in one of these hot spots, you better hunker. It's not because they can't treat you. It's because they got too many people to treat, and because they got too many people to treat, those that are on the late edge are going to die because they just can't be treated.
Right.
It's not that they can't treat you. We're running like a 1.3% death rate in this country right now, which is lower than what they, look at Italy. Italy has got great healthcare system, but they're just completely overwhelmed. So they just don't have enough beds. It's not that they can't treat them. They just can't treat them because they don't have enough beds. So,
right.
And that's what people need to realize. And this, these kids who are down in Daytona and stuff doing spring break.
Oh, yeah.
Parents, what is wrong with you? The parents of these young adults. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, yep. Stay hunkered down.
Serious stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've gone over our time.
Yes, we have. And we've gotten COVID-19 at the end. We could probably do a show on that, but I'm not going to. But everyone, please stay safe out there. And
definitely.
Stay hunkered down. We want you podcasting another day.
Yeah.
And so, hey, one thing, Rob, we're 13 days from being home from Orlando. Tomorrow's 14 days.
Right. That's true.
So everyone that went to PodFest, I haven't heard anything of anybody having issues that was at PodFest. So
yeah, I haven't heard anything either, and I'm not coming down with anything.
Yeah, so. I've been good. I never had a runny nose for a month, so nothing new for me. But all right, everyone. Hey, if you have any comments on today's show, Todd@blueberry.com, @Geek News on Twitter. Rob?
You can find me on Twitter @Rob Greenlee. That's with 2 E's. And if you want to send me an email, you can send it to robg@libsyn.com. That's a great way to get a hold of me.
And we want to thank you for tuning in today and joining us while many of you are on lockdown. And those that listen later, let us know what you think of the show. If you have something you want us to talk about, fire us away. We'll be back here. I think we're going to be back here next week, Rob.
Next Saturday, yeah.
And
and hopefully we can get a guest on next week.
And I think chaos is upon us.
Yeah, probably by the time we do this show next week, maybe the world is even a more different place than what it is today. So we'll see.
I fully expect it. So, but everyone stay safe, keep hunkered down, limit your exposure. We need your podcasting. Everyone take care.
Keep podcasting.
Yeah, keep podcasting. That's for sure. All right, everyone. See you next time.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.